When you first decide that adoption is the best path for your family to take, it can feel daunting to figure out what to do and how to do it, and what steps apply to your family and what steps don't apply to your family. Now, social media and Google will give you a lot of information about adoption, but it's not necessarily going to give you information that's tailored to your specific family and what you need to do for your adoption journey to actually be successful. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the 5 most common mistakes that first-time hopeful adoptive parents make and how to avoid them. Now, before we get into it, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to my channel to get more content like this every single week. And don't forget to hit that bell button to be notified when a new video is posted every single week. For me, as an adoption lawyer who's helped hundreds of families finalize their adoptions, I provide a streamlined, unbiased source of everything that you need to know before, during, and after adoption. So if that's you and you're interested in that, I want to invite you to click the link below to watch our free training called How to Grow Your Family Through Adoption Successfully Without Losing Time, Money, or hope in the process. And I share with you the 3 secrets that you need to know to adopt successfully. So if that sounds interesting to you, again, click the link below to watch the free training. Before we get into the details, here are the 5 most common mistakes that first-time hopeful adoptive parents make. Number 1, completing their home study as the first step in the process. Number 2, not fully grieving infertility and failed IVF procedures. Number 3, not understanding the importance of open adoption. Number 4, having a wrong idea that newborns don't have trauma. Number 5, not seriously considering foster care adoption because of misconceptions. All right, so let's talk about number 1, completing their home study as the first step in the process. Now, we all know that a home study is required for your adoption. You cannot adopt in the United States unless you have a completed and approved home study. So that is a must. So what do I mean? What I mean is that a lot of times when families are starting the adoption process and they're researching for the first time, what you'll find on social media often is people saying, get your home study done. Get your home study done. If you've heard that, comment below and let me know. This is why you should not do your home study as the very first thing you do in your process. The reason why is because your home study is tailored to the type of adoption that you actually want to do. Now, first-time hopeful adoptive parents, in my experience in working with so many of them, is sometimes they're still trying to figure out if they want to adopt a newborn, if they want to maybe consider adopting from foster care or even international adoption. And they're still kind of weighing their options as they're starting the adoption process. So the first step you actually need to take when you're starting out, you're brand new, is actually deciding the type of adoption that you want to pursue. And you need to be confident in the way that you're going. What I mean by that is, are you going to do newborn adoption? If that's the one that you're choosing, then stick with that and go that way. Are you wanting to adopt from foster care? If that's your heart, then choose that option and go that direction. Are you really wanting to do international adoption? Choose that option and go that direction, because depending on the direction you go, your home study will be tailored to that type of adoption that you're choosing. So if you choose to adopt from foster care, you'll have a foster care adoption home study. If you choose to adopt international, you're going to get an international adoption home study. Now, a lot of families, because they don't understand this, they get stuck in doing an adoption home study, and then maybe a few months later they decide, oh, well, actually we really want to do international adoption, and then they find out that they're going to have to do their home study all over again. Okay, so to save you all of that time and headache, do not do your home study right away. Instead, take the time to really understand the pros and cons of all the different types of adoptions and make the best decision from the very beginning, and then stick with that decision and move forward. Number 2, not fully grieving infertility or failed IVF procedures. This is a huge topic because unfortunately so many families are coming to adoption because of infertility and or failed IVF procedures. Now, as a believer, this is what I would tell you. I made this video right here to show you guys that God can heal you from infertility. I know it sounds wild, I know it sounds crazy, but if you're a believer and you believe in Jesus, I want to tell you that Jesus can heal you from infertility. He can do it. He has the power to do it. For those of you who really feel a calling to adoption, and maybe you've already gone through that process and you've grieved it, and you really feel from the Lord after praying that adoption is the best route, that's great. But I want to let you know that you really need to take the time to grieve that. Jesus can heal you from that, but you also need to take the time to grieve what's happened and the trauma that came with that, because adoption comes with its own issues and things and, roller coaster of emotions. And so it's really important for you to let the past go and actually step into this new thing that you're doing called adoption, because it's gonna take time. It's a process, and it is a roller coaster of emotions that's involved. And you want your heart to be fully engaged in the adoption process without having all these other things that your heart is still dealing with. The third most common mistakes that first-time hopeful adoptive parents make is not understanding the importance of open adoption. So many families think that if they are going to adopt a baby, now it's my baby. I don't want to have to co-parent with the other, with the biological family, which is understandable. It can feel like when you're starting out, when you're getting all this information, you can feel like, what do you mean I have to have a relationship with a biological parent? I thought they were relinquishing so I could have the baby and I could have a family. But you have to understand that open adoption has been known through all the research that's been done over the years. Open adoption is the best thing for the biological parents, the adoptive parents, you, and also the adopted child. So I really strongly encourage you to go and find as many resources as you can about open adoption, and also listen to stories of children who have been adopted and how open adoption helped them as they grew up. And it'll really help you to understand the importance of open adoption. Because when you go into adoption with a closed mindset already, you're thinking, I don't want to have anything to do with the biological parents. What if they're on drugs? What if they're, there's alcohol involved? What if they're abusive and neglectful? So when you start thinking that way, you're now kind of bleeding into foster care, okay? Newborn adoption is not the same thing as foster care. The children that are in foster care is because there was allegations of abuse and neglect, right? These children that you're adopting through newborn adoption, the mother is willingly relinquishing this child to you because she believes this is the best thing for her child. She's not abusive. She's not neglectful. She just cannot parent this child. And so she's choosing to relinquish this child to a family who can take care of that child. Sometimes when families are thinking about open adoption, they confuse open adoption with foster care. You have to be really careful with that, because otherwise it paints a picture of the biological family that's not correct, that's not true. And I find a lot of times that's what puts a wall between first-time hopeful adoptive parents for not understanding the importance of keeping a relationship with a biological family even after adoption. The number 4 most common mistake that first-time hopeful adoptive parents make is thinking that newborns do not have trauma. So some families go into newborn adoption thinking, oh, if I adopt a newborn versus an older child from foster care, they're going to be less traumatized. And sometimes the idea of not having to deal with trauma is what drives the decision for some families to adopt a newborn versus adopting an older child. Now, of course, we know that children in foster care have more things that have happened to them, probably, especially if they've been in foster care for a long time. But trauma is trauma regardless of how old you are. When babies are born and then they are relinquished over to another family, research has now shown, and has been showing this now for a while, that newborn babies also suffer trauma, the trauma of separation from their biological mother. First-time hopeful adoptive parents need to understand that it doesn't matter if you adopt a newborn versus an older child, you're going to have to deal with trauma. So what you need to do is get as much education as you can about trauma. And the number 5 most common mistakes that first-time hopeful adoptive parents make is not seriously considering foster care adoption because of all the misconceptions and myths with adoption, with foster care. And so as someone who has worked in juvenile court, I've worked with foster kids and biological families in foster care, and my husband and I were also foster parents. I understand firsthand why parents are kind of put off, I would say, about foster care adoption, because you hear this phrase over and over again. I just couldn't do it. It would be too hard for me to foster, to have a child come in my home and then have to let them go. And that's one of the biggest reasons why families don't even foster in the first place. But the second thing I hear most often is trauma. The kids are too traumatized. I don't know if I can handle it. I don't know if my children can handle it. I'm not equipped to handle older children, or I've never had experience parenting is another one, and I just want to start with a young child. And that's okay. If that's really where you're at, that's completely fine. But I think it's really important for you to at least consider it and understand foster care adoption before you just kind of completely push it off to the side. Because I've had families who were completely gung-ho about newborn adoption. And after they had more information about foster care adoption, they decided, you know what? We really want to help an older child who may not have a home. What I'm saying is consider it seriously and decide why this is not the best thing for a family right now. Also, when it comes to when people think, oh man, I really want to experience, I don't know how to parent an older child. I want to experience parenting at a young age. Well, the thing is that being a parent has nothing to do with what age you start at. You can parent at any age. And so no matter what age you bring into your home and wherever they are in their, whether they're teenagers or a young adult or a baby, your parenting skills, they differ depending on the stage of life or the stage of development that child is in. And so you don't have to parent a newborn to learn to parent an older child. It doesn't really work that way. You can just learn how to parent an older child because there's so many educational resources about it. So that's one of the things I think sometimes that trips up first-time hopeful adoptive parents is they're thinking, because I've never parented before, I don't think I can ever just parent an older child. But you can, I promise you can. Many families have done it and you can too. All right, so now that you know the top 5 common mistakes that first-time hopeful adoptive parents make and how to avoid them, I want to invite you again to click the link below to get our free training called How to Adopt Successfully Without Losing Money, Time, or Hope in the process. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.